older sister, and I went to Avalon High School and I graduated in 1960. And Jim graduated in 1964. This year was difficult, as I mentioned, because everyone was so outstanding. I could have easily given a scholarship if I had enough money to every single applicant. But I'm not Bill Gates, I'm not Andy Mellon, and I'm not Warren Buffett, so I had to try to divvy it up in a way that would provide the most help and the most financial goodies for each recipient. So I'm going to call two students first. I have 2 major scholarships, and then I've awarded 5 honorable mentions. Now, just because they're honorable mentions doesn't mean they're of lower status at all. It was just the best way to divvy up the funds. So, would Susie Bird come forward? I was going to ask you to hold your applause, but I do like going back. Okay. Yeah, Susie excels in mathematics. She has 620 hours of community service under her belt, is Vice President of National Honor Society, valedictorian of the class, and will be attending Marshall University, majoring in economics, and intends to go on to graduate school for her master's. I'm going to assemble all the recipients so you can take a look at the next leaders of for our country in government, economics, education, the medical field, and all. We've got all the bases covered here if we can give them a chance and they don't get burned out with the deteriorated systems we're presenting them with. That's the only problem. It's our responsibility too to handle that. Okay, let's see. Then Evan Sweeney. He is a good student, a talented musician. Let me read a little more about him so you can learn a little bit if you don't already know. He's organized concerts and raised money for Purnima, a little Pakistani girl who was, whose plight was brought to attention in the news, you may remember, and for other underprivileged children in the Pittsburgh area. He is president of his senior class, represented the student body in addressing the school board. He's president of Northgate Marching Band. He covered the One Young World Summit as part of the Pittsburgh Youth Media Group. Evan will be attending American University in Washington, D.C. He's majoring in international affairs with an eye toward a career in law and politics. Mentions, and they can all come up on the stage at once, and I'll give you a little bio of each of these wonderful students. Just to put some perspective on it, the honorable mention grants are 3 times the amount of previous honorable mention awards. So that's how I divvied it up, so everybody gets the most money that I could possibly afford. That's how highly I regard these students. What can I say? Rachel Robertson. She's going to be our 21st century Rachel Carson, who pioneered environmental conservation in the 20th century. We've got a bridge named after her, and of course she's famous for the Silent Spring. And maybe we'll add Rachel's name onto that bridge someday. Turn over the moolah. Thank you. And in addition to that, and this is still an issue, by the way, conservation. I just heard on the news about 2 weeks ago, 45% of our streams and rivers in this country aren't safe to swim in and cannot sustain plant or fish life. 45%. You know, the next shortage after we get through the oil thing is going to be water. So Rachel's going to be on that. And she's organized elementary school children in active recycling campaigns under Project Polar Bear. She is salutatorian of the class 2013. She will be attending Allegheny College, where she will major in environmental science and minor in creative writing, which will facilitate her in communication in this field. Getting people on board will be a big factor to her success. Kevin Zimmerman. Let me tell you a little bit about Kevin. He mentions his two passions in his essay, mathematics and art, thinking of them as opposites. Well, surprisingly, in the New England Journal of Medicine some 10 or 15 years ago, it reported that the quadrant of the brain that is responsible for creative activity, art, music, drama, creative writing, poetry, and the like, when stimulated, enhances the other sector of the brain that governs math and science skills. So they're really not at opposite ends, Kevin. You're okay there. That's why the ancient Romans and Greeks designed curricula that taught the whole child. Exposure to all disciplines is most beneficial. Kevin plans to pursue a career in accounting and will be minoring in art at Carlow College. He is treasurer of the James A. Braun chapter of the National Honor Society, president of the Art Club. He was stage manager for the Northgate musicals for 3 years in a row, and has also been volunteering his time to support the American Cancer Society Relay for Life. My next awardee is Lauren McNeil. Some of these faces are sort of familiar. I'm very pleased, as was mentioned earlier, Lauren has chosen to go into education. She said in her essay to me, she loves children and has always wanted to be a teacher since she was a young girl. She plans to follow through in fulfilling this dream by majoring in elementary education at Westminster College. Lauren has been very active in her church by participating in the winter coat drives, turkey giveaways, and other charitable endeavors to relieve the strife of Pittsburgh's homeless population. Oh, I skipped somebody. I'm sorry. Okay, now I found my place here. Jonathan Cuso.
You go, Cuso.
Okay, well, let me tell you about Jonathan. He's a fine cross-country runner. He has been captain of the cross-country team for the past 2 years, is in National Honor Society, headed the leadership committee for 2 years, and ran the college fair in 2012 and the leadership week in 2013. Jonathan will be attending Edinburgh University, majoring in history. That's just like my brother Jim, only he went to Indiana University, Pennsylvania. And he wishes to go forward eventually teaching and earning his doctorate at the university level. Why is studying history so important? So that we as a nation and as a society can learn the lessons of past nations and empires so as not to repeat those same mistakes. What we made, are we learning anything from others? I don't know, I goofed that up. We're supposed to learn from others' mistakes so we don't repeat them ourselves. Okay. And now, Chelsea Dungan. Chelsea's not with us tonight. But let me tell you about Chelsea. She plans to attend Geneva College and she's majoring in biology. She hopes to further her career and eventually becoming a doctor specializing in trauma care, emergency room placement. While very active in school activities such as cheerleading, track, cross-country, student council, National Honor Society, and course, and many others, Chelsea maintained a high academic standing. She works at a part-time job at Chipotle, where she has gotten a real-world taste of what it takes to bear responsibility, work cooperatively with others and respectfully, and demonstrate enthusiasm on the job. Now, let's give all these outstanding these are our leaders of the future. Let us clean up our own systems before they get into them in 10 or 20 years. Our government, our medical care delivery system, our educational system. Let's clean it up. Let's do what we can do as citizens so that they don't come out and run into a brick wall with all this enthusiasm and idealism that they've expressed. And I have one question for each of them. How many of you have a copy of the essay you wrote? Everybody, good. The reason why I ask that, every 3 months I want you to read your essay because it will remind you of how much you've accomplished at Northgate and what your passions are and that fire in your belly that you have to do great things in the future. These kids can make a difference. We have to help them, love them, and support them.